There's something off in Baltimore, and it's not just the injury report or a couple of questionable play calls. The real issue might be coming from the top, and this week, John Harbaugh gave us all a front-row seat to it. When he stepped up to the mic after the Ravens' ugly loss to the Chiefs, Harbaugh didn't hold back, but not in the way most head coaches do. Instead of spreading the accountability or giving us the classic, "we all need to be better," he sent a pretty direct message. One aimed right at his offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. And the way he did it? It felt calculated, even if it wasn't intentional. Let's rewind for a second. Right after the game, Harbaugh addressed the media with a look that said everything before he even opened his mouth. You could feel the frustration, the disappointment, but most of all, the deflection. When asked about the offensive struggles, particularly on third and short and fourth down calls, situations where the Ravens chose to pass instead of pound the rock, Harbaugh didn't exactly protect his coordinator. He said it was play calling and followed that up by saying, "I'm not happy about it at all." He didn't name Monken directly, but he didn't need to. Everyone in that room knew who calls the plays in Baltimore. The message was clear. And then came the next day, where Harbaugh had the chance to clarify or walk back his tone. He didn't. In fact, he doubled down. This time, when asked about Lamar Jackson's interception and the offensive approach in general, Harbaugh unloaded again. It wasn't a good play call, he said flat out. He even broke down the situation, explaining how the Chiefs brought pressure, and the Ravens had no checkdowns, no safety valves, just a downfield route, and Lamar left to deal with a free rusher. And once again, he finished with, "I'm not happy with it at all." He said they didn't have a good plan, didn't execute well, didn't put the players in the right spots, and that it was bad ball. At that point, it wasn't just a critique. It was a public takedown. And when your head coach starts repeating the phrase, "not happy," and calls out the strategy multiple times without using names, it starts to sound like a pattern, not just a heat-of-the-moment reaction. That's the kind of messaging that can fracture a coaching staff, especially when it's only week 4. And here's where it gets even more puzzling. In that same press conference, Harbaugh was asked about the defense and about defensive coordinator Zach Orr. And suddenly, the tone shifted. The fire disappeared. The criticism evaporated. Harbaugh went from frustration to support mode in a matter of minutes. He praised the effort, the coaching, the film study, even said he felt better after watching the tape. He acknowledged the defense was put in tough spots and that some red zone stops didn't come, but ultimately, it was a message of belief. "I have confidence in all our guys," he said, "especially Zach." It was the polar opposite of what he just said about Monken. That kind of contrast doesn't happen by accident. And fans noticed. Analysts noticed. The locker room definitely noticed. Let's be clear, no one is arguing that Todd Monken called a masterpiece against the Chiefs. There were head-scratching calls in key moments. The lack of Derrick Henry touches in short yardage situations was baffling. You bring in a guy like Henry for a reason. You use him when you need a few tough yards. Instead, the Ravens kept trying to get cute, and it cost them dearly. But Monken's offense has been productive this season. This isn't a unit that's been failing for weeks. Before the Kansas City game, the Ravens dropped over 30 on Detroit and had back-to-back 40-point performances. Statistically, they're still top 10 in most offensive categories. So why does it feel like Harbaugh singled him out like he's been dragging the team down? Meanwhile, on the defensive side, the numbers are atrocious. We're talking bottom 5 in nearly every major category. Points allowed, total yards, passing yards, red zone defense. It's a mess. The unit can't get off the field on third down, they can't stop the run when it matters, and they're forcing almost no turnovers. Against Kansas City, they didn't force a single punt until the final minutes of the game. And this isn't new. The struggles go back to week 1. This defense has looked soft, slow, and out of sync against quality opponents. Yet somehow, Zach Orr gets a pass. This is where leadership comes into question. You can't blast one side of the ball publicly while shielding the other just because one happens to be more likable or less scrutinized. That's not how winning organizations operate. If you're going to hold people accountable, it has to be consistent. If the offense deserves a roasting for one bad game, the defense deserves a full-on intervention after 4 straight duds. Even beyond the X's and O's, it's the vibe that feels off. Harbaugh's pressers used to be firm but balanced. Lately, there's a tension in his tone, like the weight of expectations and years of postseason disappointments are finally catching up. He seems more reactive, less composed. Like he's not just frustrated with the players and coaches, but with the entire situation. And instead of managing that pressure internally, it's spilling out into the media room. You also have to ask the obvious question. If Harbaugh is this unhappy with the offensive approach, where was his voice during the game? He's the head coach. He can override a call. He can pull Monken aside and say, "We're running it here." He can manage the game flow, talk to Lamar, shift the strategy. But instead, he waits until the post-game presser to air it all out. That's not accountability. That's passing the buck. This team isn't in crisis yet, but it's dangerously close. The injuries are piling up, yes, but that's not new for the Ravens. They've been down this road before. What's new is the way this coaching staff is handling it. The cracks in the messaging, the uneven distribution of blame, the quiet tension that's starting to become visible in every quote and every sideline camera shot. Harbaugh has been the Ravens' rock for over a decade. He's endured quarterback changes, roster rebuilds, and more than his fair share of playoff heartbreak. But this version of the Ravens, the one with Super Bowl aspirations, an MVP quarterback, a rebuilt offense, and a supposedly top-tier defense, isn't built to survive dysfunction. They have a window, a short one, and if the internal communication doesn't get fixed, that window's going to slam shut. The game against Houston suddenly feels massive, not just for the standings, but for the locker room. If they win and look sharp doing it, maybe all this noise quiets down. But if they drop another one, especially to a young, hungry team led by a quarterback who's been lighting it up, it's going to get loud. Really loud. And this time, it won't just be about Monken or. It'll be about the guy in charge of both of them. The contrast between Harbaugh's criticism of Todd Monken and his full-throated defense of Zach is more than just a curious press conference moment. It reflects a deeper issue inside the Ravens organization right now. When the offense sputters for one game, Monken is thrown under the bus. But when the defense continues to give up points and yards week after week, somehow the tone is all optimism and patience. And this isn't about playing favorites. It's about the credibility of a head coach who's supposed to manage the whole operation equally. Let's talk about the defense for a second because the numbers are brutal. We're not talking about a unit that's just underperforming slightly. We're talking about a group that ranks near the bottom in almost every defensive metric that matters. Points allowed, dead last. Total yards given up, among the worst in the league. First downs surrendered, again, bottom tier. Red zone defense, failing. Third down percentage, not good. Fourth down stops, rarely. This isn't a blip on the radar. It's a pattern. It's an identity problem. And what makes it worse is that it's happening under the watch of a young coordinator who's still trying to find his footing. Yet, Harbaugh's message after another poor performance was, essentially, "We believe in Zach." That belief is fine, privately. But when you're publicly hammering your offensive coordinator after one off game while offering nothing but support for a defensive unit that's been torched repeatedly, it sends a message. And it's the wrong one. Players notice this stuff. Coaches notice it. Fans definitely notice it. That kind of imbalance in accountability can lead to division. It can lead to resentment, especially when the numbers are so clear. The Ravens' offense has been top 10 in both rushing and passing efficiency. Lamar Jackson has been playing well, until the last game, when even then, most of his struggles were clearly a product of poor protection and predictable play designs. Monken hasn't been perfect, but he's adapted this offense to be faster, more explosive, and much more balanced than what we saw under Greg Roman. And yet, one bad Sunday, and suddenly he's the scapegoat? Let's not forget that Harbaugh has the power to intervene. He's not some figurehead on the sideline watching things unfold helplessly. If he hated those third and short passing calls so much, he could have stepped in. That's the job of a head coach, to manage the game, not just the press conference afterward. So when Harbaugh comes out and basically says, "Yeah, we didn't like the play calls, they were bad, we didn't put our players in the right spots," the question becomes, where were you in the moment? You had 4 quarters to make adjustments. Why didn't they happen until you were at the podium? The same logic should apply to the defense. You can't claim to feel better after watching the tape. When the tape shows Patrick Mahomes shredding your secondary, your pass rush being neutralized for 3 quarters, and your team not getting a single stop when it mattered. The Chiefs did whatever they wanted, and they didn't punt until there were less than 3 minutes left in the game. If that kind of performance makes you feel better, something's seriously off. And here's the thing, Zach deserves support. He's a young coach in a tough spot, filling big shoes. He's got injuries piling up all around him. The secondary has been thin. The linebacker group isn't at full strength. And now, with Nnamdi Madubuike out for the season, the pass rush is going to be even more of a challenge. But excuses don't change results. And when your defense is giving up 30 points on average to playoff-caliber teams, that has to be acknowledged. That has to be addressed. You don't get to gloss over that just because the guy calling the plays is likable or inexperienced. That's not how you lead. What we're seeing from Harbaugh right now is a head coach who looks and sounds overwhelmed. His tone is different. His posture is different. There's frustration in every answer, but not a lot of ownership. Not a lot of solutions. It's not just about what's being said. It's about how it's being said. The offense gets public critiques and hard truths. The defense gets context and encouragement. That imbalance is dangerous. Let's not ignore the injuries, though. They're real, and they're stacking up fast. Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith, Nnamdi Madubuike, all out. Lamar Jackson, dealing with a hamstring issue. Ronnie Stanley hasn't been right all year. Mark Andrews still doesn't look fully healthy. This team is hurting. And Harbaugh mentioned that the Ravens have been down this road before, which is true. But the point isn't whether you've seen adversity. It's what you do when you face it again. You can't just say, "We've been here before," as if that automatically means you'll find your way out. The game doesn't care how many times you've battled back. All that matters is whether or not you fix the problems now. And that's where this whole messaging issue starts to affect performance. Right now, the Ravens look disconnected. The body language is bad. The sideline energy is flat. Lamar doesn't look like he trusts the calls coming in. The defense is constantly scrambling. And the vibe from Harbaugh is one of confusion more than confidence. That's not what you want heading into Week 5. Houston isn't a pushover. C.J. Stroud is playing with poise and precision. That offense is moving the ball efficiently. If Baltimore walks into that game with the same lack of rhythm, the same lack of urgency, they could easily find themselves at 2 wins and 3 losses, and the noise will only get louder from there. It's not just about injuries. Every team deals with them. The Ravens have dealt with more than most over the last few seasons, sure, but the best teams find ways to stay composed, stay united, and most importantly, keep the message clear. Right now, the Ravens' messaging is fractured. One side of the ball feels blamed, the other feels protected. One coordinator is getting roasted, the other is getting coddled. And the head coach is playing both sides in public without taking a clear stand. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In what could be one of the most intriguing moves of the offseason, the Baltimore Ravens are reportedly closing in on signing cornerback Jaycee Horn, a move that could send shockwaves through the AFC. Sources close to the team suggest that the front office is eager to lock down Horn as the centerpiece of a secondary that has been searching for stability and dominance ever since its last major shakeup. The buzz around M&T Bank Stadium is already palpable, with fans speculating how Horn's arrival might redefine the Ravens' defensive identity. Horn, known for his physicality, speed, and ability to lock down elite receivers, has been on the radar of multiple franchises, but Baltimore appears determined to make him their own. Insiders hint that the Ravens see Horn not just as a player, but as a statement, a signal to the rest of the league that Baltimore intends to reclaim its reputation as a defensive powerhouse. The rumor mill is running wild with questions about how he will fit alongside the current secondary, which already features talented playmakers, but has struggled with consistency against top-tier passing attacks. While no official confirmation has been made, sources suggest that the discussions have reached an advanced stage, and an announcement could come sooner rather than later. Speculation is rife about the financial details, with whispers of a contract designed to keep Horn in Baltimore for the long haul, potentially making him one of the cornerstones of a Ravens defense that could rival any in the league. Pundits are already debating the strategic implications. Will Horn's presence free up other defensive backs to take more risks? Could this be the missing piece that propels Baltimore deep into the playoffs next season? As the rumor continues to swirl, the excitement among fans and analysts is unmistakable. Social media platforms are buzzing with highlight reels of Horn's past performances, dissecting every play in anticipation of his potential impact. If this signing goes through, It could mark a turning point for the Ravens, solidifying a secondary that has long been a question mark and signaling the team's intent to dominate opponents through elite defensive play. Whether this is a strategic masterstroke or just the beginning of a series of bold moves remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: Baltimore is making noise, and the NFL is listening. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.